It's been 5 years since Gears of War 3 wrapped up the original trilogy, but now the gears are turning once more with Gears of War 4.
You won't get away so easy this time.
Come on, we're almost there.
Now, at the time of recording, the Versus multiplayer wasn't live, so today we're just going to look at the campaign and Horde mode.
Yes, it is worth noting though that similar to what happened with Halo, the original developers at Epic Games have moved on. So Microsoft have actually set up an entire studio, the Coalition, exclusively dedicated to making Gears of War games.
Yeah, so if you like Gears games, then that's good news for you. There's probably going to be a lot coming. And following a solid remastering of the original game, this is their first crack at creating a brand new entry into the series.
Yeah, and in a way the story kind of reflects that passing of the torch. It takes place 25 years after the original trilogy, when the Locust threat was stopped by the coalition of ordered governments, aka COG, and its group of elite soldiers, the Gears. But it seems like the giant bomb used to stop the Locust has messed with the weather, causing these huge wind flare storms that now ravage the planet.
And in the years since then, the COG went right back to being a giant dictatorial pain in the butt, trying to force everyone to live in giant settlements, while groups of rebels went right back to rejecting them and living out on their own.
Citizen, you are not authorized.
What? Citizen implies we claim allegiance to a centralized authority. I think of myself as part of an anarcho collective.
Now, Gears is kind of the granddaddy of brown games, in my opinion, Hex, but there's so much more color in this one. The world is greener, and there's even flower beds in a Gears game, Hex.
Oh, this is lovely, isn't it? And meanwhile, our old hero Marcus Phoenix has settled down and started a family, which is where you come in. You're JD, Marcus's son, an ex-Gear who's decided to jump ship and live with the rebels.
Thankfully for his and our own moral compasses, the COG have started using an all-robot army, so you don't have to worry about shooting any fellow soldiers in this rebellious phase.
Ethically convenient and deadly. So yes, there's a whole new enemy to fight with these robots who rain down into battle from cargo planes.
Yeah, and I'm happy to say, these robots are fun to fight. And normally robots aren't, they're boring. Weaker drones satisfyingly shatter and explode, while bigger ones relentlessly push towards you before making a final kamikaze-style charge. And there's heaps of these little exploding balls of doom that roll up to you, pushing you out of cover. And I love that you can give them a little kick when they get too close.
Who doesn't like to kick some balls? But of course, it wouldn't be a Gears game if all you did was fight robots. So eventually you do come up against the Swarm, which is a sort of revived Locust army.
Yes, and we won't spoil the how of it, but they're back and they're pissed. They started kidnapping people and putting them into gross pods, which turn them into monsters. And the main plot focuses on you and a small group trying to get your people back from these things.
So right now, we go after my dad. We need him.
There are some returning Locust enemies, but they've all got slightly different names and abilities to mix things up.
There's also plenty of new foes to fight as well, with the fast-moving and squishy Juvies swarming you to push you out into the open.
They keep dodging.
The tough and pouncy Pouncers who leap all over the place and try to jump on you. And Snatchers, big scorpion-esque monsters who will try to snatch you away into their belly if they get too close to you while you're knocked down.
I loved that Snatcher design. It's so stressful when you or one of your squad gets snatched and you have to try and shoot the belly to set them free. I would have liked a little bit more visual damage as you shot some of those tougher enemies though. They just take quite a few clips to kill and there's no visual feedback on how damaged they are, which made them feel a little bit too bullet spongy.
Yeah, Gears is a bit old school in that way, isn't it? Just soaking up the bullets until they finally die. But when they do die, it's wonderful. The explosion of body parts and robot bits and things, and the odd net fountain, it's always nice to see. One thing I would have liked to see more of, though, is the Swarm versus the robots. I think there was maybe one battle where you see them fight each other. I just think it's a bit of a missed opportunity. I always like it when enemies take on each other in games.
Yes. Now, of course, there's a bunch of new weapons to try out as well. Some new submachine guns. A sort of rail gun that you have to charge up but can't leave charged for too long. and a shotgun that fires both when you pull the trigger and when you let it go.
There's also some new heavy weapons to play with, like this sort of missile launcher, remote detonation kind of thing that fires a charge which hovers over the battlefield and drops down at your command. And my personal favorite, a giant buzzsaw launcher which shoots blades that bounce around. I think they did such a good job with all the new weapons. They're fun and interesting to use, and they mix up the Gears sandbox perfectly, and I just never tire of that active reload minigame. It's always fun and always satisfying.
And the old favorites like the gibberizing Nasher shotgun. And the iconic Lancer make a return, because it's just not a Gears game until you saw a giant ugly alien in half, is it?
And you know, Hex, all credit to the developers on this one because they've nailed everything that makes a great Gears game. And it might be a bit odd to give credit to a developer for getting the basics right, but those basics matter, and it could have gone horribly wrong.
And they haven't tried to reinvent Gears, which I think is a smart move for a developer's first attempt at a beloved franchise. In fact, we recently spoke to Chuck O'Shea, the creative director on the game, who spoke about some of the challenges of taking this on.
Gears is such an iconic franchise that for us it was about doing it right before we do it different. So, you know, it's such a huge responsibility to take on this franchise that from our standpoint, we need to make sure that the fans realize that we love and care and cherish the Gears franchise as much as they do. It started with having Rod Ferguson, one of the co-creators of the original Gears of War, lead the studio. So having him in the studio was a great help because where normally we'd have to do a lot of trial and error on things like, could we do this or do this? We were able to talk to Rod about, as you built the first 4 games, why did you make these decisions?
A brave group of soldiers, led by Marcus Phoenix, finally ending our Locust nightmare.
The original Gears had a theme of destroyed beauty. And we wanted to play on that and maintain a lot of the feel of Gears, and our theme was actually reclaimed beauty. So you get to see this nature intertwined with all this war-torn environment. And I think there's a bit more color than there's ever been in Gears before. But I think they've done a really nice job of making sure that all that stuff fits.
That's the last one.
That was Chuck O'Shea there. In terms of core mechanics, there's not much that's new. I think the ability to grab an enemy from the other side of cover and assassinate them was pretty much the only new ability that I noticed.
Another dead shepherd!
And I suppose shooting down blobs of cover from the roof is new too.
They've also managed to ratchet up the environmental destruction, especially when those wind flares come in. And we can probably thank the new hardware for that.
Oh, that worked!
Cover also seems more temporary than ever. Boxes get shredded, blobs burst, and railings crumble. And this all makes the fights more dynamic.
Oh, for sure. And I also like how they've incorporated elements from HORDE mode into the campaign as well. For example, at certain points you'll have to set up defenses and protect an area against a few waves of enemies. And I can't believe I'm saying this about a Gears of War game, but I think they actually did a pretty good job with the story. The characters are more believable and relatable.
You're obviously hungover.
Actually, I'm still a little drunk.
There's some actually funny banter.
I think I got some in my mouth.
Plus, it manages to be both epic in scale, but kind of personal at the same time.
Go. I got this.
And there's a bunch of great moments for fans throughout the story as well. But the only thing I found disappointing, Hex, was the ending. It was just so flat. And I get that they're setting up for like another 30 Gears games, but there was nothing in it that excited me for the next one besides just leaving a whole bunch of plot lines unresolved.
Yeah, I was actually quite surprised when it ended. I was like, is that it? Where's the big hero cliffhanger moment? Disappointing. Anyway, let's move on to the new HORDE mode, which they're calling HORDE 3.0. The basics are the same. You and a team of up to 5 defend against wave after wave of enemies, trying to go the full 50 waves without everyone getting smushed, which is no easy task.
But there are a few new quirks this time. Firstly, before a game starts, you have to grab a fabricator and find a spot to set it up, which is awesome, since essentially you and your team get to figure out what spot on the map you want to defend and set up camp there.
Well, maybe we should put it here.
Yeah, this looks good.
And you can move it about too whenever things aren't working out, and things don't work out a lot.
Yeah, like when one of those giant snatchers grabs you and you get eaten, and then pooped out again.
Yeah, it was a magical moment.
Oh my god! Oh my god, no! No! Oh, it ate me! Oh, it ate me! I'm inside it, and it just pooped me out! Oh my god! How am I still alive?
Overall, though, I really liked the design of the maps in general. There's lots of different ones to choose from. There's a lush green temple one and a kind of farmyard scenario. It was just more than your average warehouse, which I appreciated. Throughout each round, enemies you kill will drop power, which you can collect and deposit at the fabricator to spend on defenses or weapons. It's a shared pool of resources though, and defenses are expensive, so you better hope your team are good with money. I regret buying that weapons locker.
Yeah, that felt a bit pointless, didn't it? It's like, here's just a cupboard. You just bought some furniture for our battle.
I should have held out for the turret.
I do like the turrets, and I like keeping them repaired. I felt like we got some cool little moments happening there.
Made the classes feel really useful when you can play an engineer and you're constantly repairing all of your defenses and stuff. That was cool.
Yeah, I'm not good with money though. I just kept buying all of those barbed wire things.
Man, you're right in there with the purchases.
Yeah.
The other big new change is the addition of classes. You can choose from Soldier, Engineer, Heavy, Scout, and Sniper, which will each get you a different loadout of starting weapons and access to different sets of skills. Engineers, for example, get perks related to building stronger defenses or making them cheaper. It's great that there are more specialized roles to fill now too. It adds more variety and it makes teamwork more important than ever.
So before the game starts, you can choose from a range of perks, which is of course based on the rules of how we make games in 2016, a collectible card system.
Yeah, even the way you open them is just straight out of Hearthstone. Cling, 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 bling. To get cards, you need to buy and open packs with credits that you earn from playing HORDE or online. And of course, you can spend real-world money to get them if you want to.
So you'll first need to have acquired the card from a randomized deck before you can select its associated perk. And if you collect multiple versions of that card, you can even level it up to make it more powerful. Or, you know the drill, you can destroy extra cards to get the materials to craft specific cards you want. If you do spend a lot of time with a particular class too, you'll level it up and be able to select multiple skills, making you a HORDE powerhouse.
Hex, on the one hand, any kind of system that pushes microtransactions makes me feel a bit uneasy and can feel a bit manipulative. But on the other hand, if this is a mode that you spend a lot of time with, it's nice to have some extra depth and something to work towards. And if you're not into versus multiplayer online, then HORDE mode is a great option for you and your friends. It's still fun. I was surprised at how much fun HORDE mode still is.
It's pretty overkill, but alright.
But we should wrap this up. Based on the campaign and HORDE mode alone, Hex, what are you giving it?
Well, admittedly, Gears of War has never been a favourite franchise of mine, but I feel like you know what you want to get out of a Gears game, and this lives up to all those expectations. I'm giving it 4 out of 5.
Yeah, it's top-tier AAA cover shooting in all of its bombastic, gory glory. If you like fat necks and shooty bangs, this is for you. I'm giving it 4 out of 5 as well.
You're taking my people.
What?
Don't forget, I know what you were trained to do.
Bye?